Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real, and I'm your host, Bob Gallagher. I'm joined in the studio today by our co-host, Sarah. Welcome back to the show, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
And we've also got three great real estate agents in the room with us today. Gail Sabol, Emma Weissman, and Deb Buckley. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having us.
And all of you make up the Sabol Associates with Keller Williams Realty North Central, right?
Correct.
Excellent. So we asked you to come on the show today so you could give us sort of an update on what's going on in the market and tell us what's happening right now. You cover what, the Central Mass area and pretty much everything around there?
Right, the North Central Mass area and Northern Worcester. So we have a wide range that we cover.
Right. So can you give us a little bit of an update on what's going on in the market these days?
Well, we've seen a little bit of a slowdown in the market. It's still very strong. We've still had lots of activity, but in comparison to, let's say, June, July, August, and we're not quite sure whether we're seeing a slowdown that's completely based on the time of year, because it normally slows down now,
Right.
or if we're seeing a shift in the market.
Right.
There's a lot of speculation that a shift in the market is coming.
And when you say a shift, can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Well, we saw that same shift back in 1989, and we've seen one in 2009, and now we're seeing it drop again. So we're seeing a lot of price changes, inventory that's going over 30, 40 days,
Right.
with some price changes that are coming in now.
So it's kind of shifting from a seller's market to more of a buyer's market?
We're starting to see that out in
Right.
our area.
Which probably isn't the worst thing in the world, especially the way prices climbed the last 5-6 years.
That's correct.
Yeah.
What goes up must come down, and we
Yeah.
know it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're hearing a lot of the same stuff in the mortgage business too, right, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're hearing, we're not hearing, like, I don't want anybody listening to think that, like, this catastrophic end is coming,
No.
like we had in 2009 where
Yeah.
the phone stopped ringing and everybody stopped buying. Whenever you have things go up for as long as they've been going up, there has to be a correction because people need to buy houses to keep those numbers up, and once they cross a certain point, you start pricing people out of the market. So it's,
Right.
again, probably not the worst thing in the world. Rates have actually dropped, which is making houses a little more affordable. So I'm betting that it's probably more to do with the seasons changing. At least me and everybody else in the business is probably hoping that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all hoping that, Bob.
Because we've seen a little bit of, during the course of the past year or so, we've seen. It seemed like it was starting to shift a little bit. Like all of a sudden, it seemed like the norm. If you didn't get 15 offers on your house in 15 hours, then something was wrong.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
now it seems like maybe we're getting back to reality, which honestly is nice because dealing with buyers, I mean, it gets discouraging making 10 offers on a house before you get the house, and it's not even necessarily the house you want. It's just all that's left.
That's right. And you know what I think we saw, as we've seen before, and that's a false high. People price their house, and the neighbor next door sells theirs for $3. They think theirs is better, so it's worth $325. So they price it at $350, and the market was never $350.
Yeah.
Right.
So when all of a sudden they have to reduce their prices, the sky is falling. It's
Right.
really not.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just you're approaching peak demand, so you're not really going to be able to keep going up.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point you make too. It's not necessarily that you're seeing price cuts due to the market changing. It's more that people are being a little bit overly optimistic on what they were going to get for the house when they sell it.
Yes, sellers are starting to get more realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to an educated realtor as well, knowing
Yes.
exactly what the house is worth and pricing it correctly.
And having your sellers listen to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, and I always mention that to people whenever they ask. We always refer them to top agents in the area, and I don't want to go off on a big tangent, but that is one thing that Sarah and I have talked about a bunch of times on the show is that it's so important to pick a real estate professional to work with. You can't just go to your cousin's mom's sister's best friend from college that she hasn't talked to in 20 years. I
Yes.
mean, that's not a way to pick an agent. You want to pick an agent that you're referred to because they're doing a great job, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, speaking of working with great agents, what about working with a team? Can you kind of elaborate on the benefits that your buyers and sellers get when you're working with a whole team of agents?
Well, I think you get a lot of people who can specialize and then who are doing the part of the job that they like best. So that's why we have Emma Weissman, who is our admin. She actually runs the team. She tells us all where we're supposed to be and sometimes how to get there. And then we have Deb, who's specializing in working with buyers and doing the showings and helping with open houses. So maybe Emma can talk a little bit about what she does.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what you do as the person running the team?
Sure. So my college degree is in business, and I kind of figured this would be a good fit for me, real estate. It kind of is just a natural fit. And I do everything from talking to all the buyers and sellers that we're working with, to inputting listings, to transaction management, and sometimes just holding people's hands and saying, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to make it through this.
That's a big part of the
Yes,
job.
that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I just like that part, and helping people and making sure they know that they're going to get through this, because it's one of the biggest things that someone does in their life is buy or sell a house.
Yeah,
So,
it's stressful.
Yeah. So I like to be there to help them through that.
Excellent. One of the things we also were talking about before we got started today was people that are looking to downsize, and where do they go? When you're dealing with a client that's, got a bigger home and looking for something smaller to go, can you kind of walk us through the steps of kind of getting them from where they are to where they're going?
Well, I think Deb can speak to that too, because she's quite educated and knowledgeable in people that are downsizing in the boomer market. So maybe, Deb, you can talk the statistics for a moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an interesting trend going on right now in the country that a lot of people aren't really talking about, and we need to start having a conversation, because it's going to impact a lot of the economy as well as housing. And just to throw out some stats so your listeners can get grounded on these astonishing numbers, is that the U.S. market is 315 million people. And of the 315 million people, 115 million people, that's a big number, is 50 years old or older.
Wow.
It's significant. So that number is going to continue to climb, because it's not that we're dealing so much with the baby boomer industry or baby boomer market that's leading the way. What we're basically looking at here is a whole trend that's occurring, and that is called longevity. So it's not ageism necessarily, but longevity, because people are now living, right? They're living to the age of 90. And this is not just the boomer generation that's leading the way, it's the Gen Xers too. Right. So how are we going to deal with this, and how are we going to build infrastructures, and how's the city going to deal with it? How are they going to house people? Is there adequate housing? A lot of what people are seeing is people are not moving down south, and being snowbirds like our parents were. They're staying here in the Northeast. So how do we accommodate those needs? How do we set up transportation to support that? Housing that supports that. And as we all know, the inventory is pretty lean.
Right.
And, support either aging in place or downsizing.
Right.
I think if you look at this segment, it's bifurcated into two groups, which have two different needs, right? You have the 50-year-old to 70-year-old that will probably go into their last home, right? So it's really an emotional kind of transition for them to basically find that home, maybe sell the home that their children grew up in, move into something smaller, and where they're going and what's the compromise there. Then you have the 70-year-old to 90-year-old that's looking at other housing environments. It's more kind of, I would say, aging in place, beyond even aging in place, more assistant living or community living. And I think, in the state of Massachusetts, in this country as a whole, we have to start looking at what kind of housing inventory is available, and how do we manage this transition as these numbers continue to grow.
And are you finding that most of the people that are looking to downsize, are they going to condos, or are they just looking for smaller single families?
They're going to condos. We're seeing a lot of the aging in place thing that's going on right now. And one of what our team does is we do specialize in condos, and we actually have an on-site office at a large condominium community here in the Worcester area. It's in Clinton. It's called Ridgefield Condominiums. There are 360 condominiums on 100 acres.
Wow.
And it's
That's
quite
huge.
a large site. It is huge. And we see so many people come in the door. We do an open house every weekend, every Sunday from 1 to 3. And everyone's coming in the door. They're looking to sell that larger home and to downsize. And, frankly, they're tired of doing the lawn and mowing,
Yeah.
you know, and
Snow plowing,
snow,
yeah.
and it's the time of life when they want to relax a little bit, and that's
Right.
what a lot of them are looking for. They want a house, they
Right.
just don't want to take care of it.
Yeah.
So we have a great product, we just don't have enough of that housing available, I think.
And are you seeing first-time buyers or younger buyers going to places like Ridgefield as well?
We're starting to see more of that because of pricing. The younger buyers have been priced out of the housing market with the increase in prices. And the condos, frankly, offer a really nice alternative. And, you know, to buy a house at under $300,000, it's probably a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
And a lot of young couples don't have the money to pay that for a house and then turn around and fix it up. Where in a condo, a lot of the condos are in really good shape because they're maintained
Right.
by the associations, and you know that condo fee helps pay for that, and that's not money extra that they have.
Right.
So a lot of times they end up at the condos.
Right.
That's a good point. As a millennial myself, a lot of us don't like to do a lot of maintenance and exterior work and landscaping. So I think condos do appeal to the younger generation for that reason too. They see the value in paying a condo fee that covers basically all of the exterior work that they'd have to do.
Well, I lived in a condo for a couple of years too, and it was great, especially during the winter when everybody else was complaining about shoveling their sidewalks and their driveways.
Just walk
I
right
just got
out.
in my car and left.
Exactly.
Everything was already clean, nothing to do. Same thing during the summer. Everybody's spending time on yard work and
You could be at the
didn't
pool.
have to
Yep.
do anything.
The
Yeah.
one thing we haven't seen though is a lot of new construction, and you know we all wish there was more of that because condos right now, a lot of them are more than one level. So most of the people coming in are looking for single level living. We have 24 styles at Ridgefield, and only 3 of the styles are on one floor.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, there's a need for that type of housing in the market. And we just don't see a lot of new construction or a lot of, you know, places for people who want to age in place to go.
Yeah, it seems like the only thing they're building is assisted living facilities or big single families.
Yeah.
There's not a lot in between.
Right. Or if they're building condos, they're building up, not out, because
Yeah.
it's less
Yeah.
for the builders.
Yeah.
And that's not what the market's calling for.
No. No, it'd be nice to see builders go back to building entire neighborhoods of, you know, single family, one level houses.
Ranches.
Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't even
Yeah.
have to be a big
Yeah.
ranch.
Yeah.
Even the split levels.
Right.
So you don't have to deal with stairs all the time.
Split levels are coming back. Those are kind of
Yes.
back in demand.
Well, that's the thing. You get so much bang for the buck where you're basically paying for a ranch, but you're usually getting the lower level finish too.
For the storage.
Right. Yeah.
Or the in-laws.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
or the daughter or son.
Or
Yeah.
the teenagers that come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another thing we're hearing a lot about is I guess that's one of the big things that buyers are looking for now is in-laws.
Yeah.
Seems like
Yes.
everybody wants an in-law.
Oh my God, yes, definitely. And it's kind of funny because everyone thinks that, oh, you know, it's just me. We just need an in-law. No, literally everyone is looking
Yes.
for an in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used
Or
to
a
be
ranch, you know.
Yeah, it used to be the people didn't want the in-law.
Right.
It was
Right,
a
yeah.
hassle.
There
and
was
now
like a
it's-
stigma with that,
Yeah.
but now it's desirable and possibly income producing. And
Yeah.
I have some buyers right now, and their parents are actually looking to sell their house, buy a multifamily or an in-law, so that both generations can live in the house. And after they pass on, the son has inheritance and an income-producing property.
Wow.
So
That's excellent. Yeah. It was probably why it's in so much demand.
That's good future planning. I like that
It is.
idea.
It is. And something else we probably should mention too for people that are looking to downsize. A lot of times they don't realize that you know I don't want to say the worst thing, but it's not a great idea to put all of the money you're netting from your sale into your new place with no mortgage. I mean, there's tax ramifications there, but also if you ever need to get the money, that's usually when it's hardest or almost impossible to get.
Yeah.
Do you ever get people asking about the loan terms? You know, the
All
length
the
of
time.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've been really surprised lately. I've heard it from more than a few people that a lot of seniors feel like you can't get a 30-year mortgage, you know, especially if you're in your 60s or 70s. They're all assuming they have to do a 10 or 15-year loan, which obviously has a much higher monthly payment. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is it doesn't matter if you're 112. We can still do a 30-year mortgage.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think, and I want to expound on that idea a little bit. I think that's great that you said that and you brought that up because having a 30-year mortgage, again, to the older generation, a boomer industry, people 60 years old or older, this is going to be you're going to be probably shocked with these numbers, and I think they're low, are carrying $86 billion. $86 billion of student loan debt. It's a huge problem in this country, and I think the numbers I just gave you are probably on the low side. So here they are, 60 years old. You signed for your kid to go to an Ivy League school at $200,000 a year. They went to school. They graduated, and they decided they wanted to go surfing in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The parents are responsible for the debt.
Yeah.
And that's the case.
On top of supporting the kid.
And
Yes.
yeah, right,
Exactly.
exactly. Then boomeranging, I should say, back into the house. So that's awesome, Sarah, that you mentioned that early on about a 30-year mortgage because I
Yeah.
think people do need that financial support.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Something else we should probably mention too, because of the season we're about to head into, buying and selling during the late fall winter season. What's your feeling on that? Because it seems like everybody's saying right now, I'll wait till the spring.
Houses still sell in the fall. And you know what? People actually get some of their best deals in the fall. Sellers going into winter want to sell. And what happens is if you wait until spring, everybody thinks they have to wait till spring to sell their house. And what happens is everybody thinks that way. So in the spring, you get lots of inventory and supply and demand. It helps force the pricing down a bit. So if you can buy going into the fall or very early spring, you tend to get some good deals.
Less competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just speaking from the seller side, if you're thinking about listing in the fall or the winter, you have the real serious buyers looking in the winter. You're not having people just window shopping and just looking at houses for fun.
Yeah.
These are people who really need to move and are serious.
No tire kickers going through 2 feet of snow to look at your house.
Yeah.
No, not so much.
So really, it might be a better time to sell.
You're right.
Yeah.
Good point, Emma. Yeah.
So if there's anybody listening right now that's thinking about buying or selling anywhere soon in the fall, winter, or even if you're crazy and you're going to wait till spring, even though we said not to, you want to give Sabol Associates a call, you can reach them at 978-407-8656. Again, it's the Sabol Associates with Keller Williams Realty North Central, 978-407-8656. Gail, Emma, Deb, thank you all for joining us today. It was great having you on.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us.
You're welcome. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.